This video is on how to draw lips. So the first thing I'm going to start with is the line that separates the two lips. I'm going to draw a line that isn't quite straight, and I'm going to make it a little bit thicker on the ends. So it's a little bit irregular. Next, I'm going to mark very lightly my halfway point. So this is going to help me judge where my little dip is in my top lip and where my valley is in the bottom lip. So I have a little dip already started, and it's going to slant out and meet. So notice the shape of the slant. Okay, it's not like really big bubble lips. Most lips just slant. Most natural lips, anyway, slant down towards the outside part. All right, so my bottom lip is going to be a little bit fatter than my top lip. So I'm going to kind of mark down here my halfway point, kind of where that bottom lip is going to be. Now this one might slant out a little bit more. So my bottom lip is going to be a little bit fatter than that top lip, but it slants up too. Now that I have that shape, I don't need my guideline anymore, so I'm going to erase that. All right, so I'm going to draw a little bit of a kind of like a U shape up right above the lip. There's a little bit of space. I'm doing this very lightly because it's going to be shaded in. And then I could draw a little bit of a line right underneath the lip for where the chin starts. All right, so everything else on this is going to be shading. And I'm actually going to rotate it a little bit for easier shading. So whenever I'm shading, I always start in the center, and I always do the top lip first. So I'm going to start building up, and then as it goes up, it's going to fade out. So my shading near the center is going to be darker and fading out towards the top. Now I'm going to do that in reverse as well. I'm going to shade the top lip, a part of my lip, and I'm going to fade it out into the lip. All right, so my top lip is going to be darker than my bottom lip. All right, so the bottom lip typically has a reflection spot. So before I even start shading, I'm going to indicate where my highlight is. So I'm going to draw the shape that kind of looks like a banana in the center of my bottom lip. And that's going to help guide where my shading is. So I'm going to start shading in the center again, and I'm going to fade out, very quickly fade out my shading. So it's going to start dark, and then it's very quickly going to fade. As soon as it hits that shape that I drew for the highlight, it's going to stop. But it's not going to just like stop, it fades out right there. Like I shouldn't have just like this white thing just floating. It should gradually go from darker gray to light gray to white. I'm going to do that all the way across my lip. All right, so I'm actually going to rotate my paper for easier shading. And I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom. I'm going to start dark, and then as soon as I get to that shape, I'm going to fade out my shading. I'm just smoothing out some of my rough areas if it looks kind of blotchy. Go back and add a little bit more pencil. Now the last thing that I'm going to do, I seem to have lost my center line, so I'm going to bring that back by just going back over it. On our bottom lip, a lot of times there's these little, at resting, we'll have these little contour lines, and they should be pretty light, and they also should be regular. And those lines are there because our lips have to stretch whenever we speak. All right, so that's the shading on the lip. Now we need to look on the outside part. So I'm going to start at the top. I'm going to add a little bit of shading on the inside of this U, but it's going to fade out pretty quickly as it goes towards the center. I'm going to leave a little bit of space, and then I'm going to shade, kind of going in a slant on the side of that, right above the lip. I'm leaving some space right above the lip and besides this thing. Now I'm trying to be very light with this to avoid the illusion of facial hair. It should just look like a little bit of shading. Now I can add a little bit of shading underneath my lip too. Since my lips do kind of stick out, there's going to be a little bit of a cast shadow under them. And that is how to draw a mouth.